จริงทีม coming soonเรา welcome นะครับคนรู้ว่าเราไปหมดแล้วล่ะคือมันออมแสงอ่ะคือเข้าใจป่ะคือมันออมแสงปั๊บอีเวนต์ทุกอย่างแม่งเลื่อนไปชั่วโมงนึงเข้าใจป่ะลิมอีเวนต์ทุกอย่างเลื่อนไปชั่วโมงอะไรเงี้ย3:30แล้วจะครึ่งแล้วดิเอเทสเดี๋ยวแป๊บนึงนะ YouTube เสียงไม่เข้าปะวะหยิบโทรศัพท์ก่อนโทรศัพท์เสียงน่าจะเข้าไม่ใช่อ๋ออ๋อเอแอปโอเคแอป YouTube ไม่เจอระยะเวลาใหม่ของการมันดีเลยเยอะเหมือนกันนะอะไรที่ไงอะไรแกอยู่หรอกคนนอนไปแล้วเอออ๋อปกติจำได้ว่าตี 2นะไฟอะเพลงนี้ไฟอะ
Hi,
Welcome
I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games. Thanks for joining us for today's Path of Exile livestream. We have a packed show today with announcements for Path of Exile 2, as well as the exclusive unveiling of Path of Exile Affliction, which
โหด
launches
มาก
on
ไปก็ไม่
December
เข้าอยู่
8th
ดี
on PC and Mac, and on December
เข้า
13th
อยู่
on
ดี
console. Twitch drops are enabled on today's live stream, so make sure you follow the instructions below in order to claim your Huntsman wings. We'll start with Path of Exile 2, where
โอ้
Jonathan
โห
will
มาถึง
walk
ก็
you through our latest
เอ็กซ์ไพร์
announcements.
2เลย
Mark will
เลย
then take you on a deep dive into the new Path
รี
of
บขาย
Exile
เกิน
Affliction
ภาค
Challenge
2
League, which launches in 1 week. He'll cover the league mechanics, its rewards, some new content we're adding to
New
the core
core
Path of Exile
content ใหม่
experience, and some large metagame changes.
เม
I'll then
ตา
show you our
เกม
annual core
เปลี่ยน
supporter
เมตา
packs,
แต่
and
ว่า
we'll
มี
head
การ
into
เนิ
our
ร์ฟ
live Q&A session where
Support
Ziggy D will
Q&A
ask us your questions
โอ
from
เค
Twitch
ถ้าถึง
chat.
Q&A เมื่อไหร่ปิดส
After
ต
the
รีม
live stream, we'll drop the full patch notes. I'd like to hand over to
Patch
Jonathan
note
Rogers,
เหรอ
Game Director of Path
ค่อย
of
ตื่นพรุ่ง
Exile
นี้เช้า
2.
ดู
Hey guys, it's been a few months since we introduced you to the Druid in Path of Exile 2. But one of the things that we're really focusing on now is how varied each of the
โอ้ยคุณ
classes
โร
feels
เจอ
to
ร์
play. The monk darts around quickly from enemy to enemy, building and unleashing
Oh.
combos.
เอ้ย
If
ขวด
he
ยา
doesn't stay in
ก้อนใหม่วะ
combat, he loses momentum and has to build it up again.
นี่ไงสังเกตจำได้ ภาพสวยป่ะ
The warrior, on the other hand, is like a slow but unstoppable freight train. A warrior commits to big attacks and relies on stunning his enemies to stay safe in the thick of combat. When an opening presents itself, a warrior can use even larger attacks to demolish his enemies. The Huntress seamlessly moves from melee to ranged combat and back. The true damage potential of the Huntress is only unlocked when you learn to combine ranged and melee abilities together. And then there are the spellcasters. The sorceress is a pure caster who much prefers to stay at range and drop powerful spells on her
คือมัน
foes.
ทำอาชีพมา
If she
คือ
finds
ยังไม่
herself
ทำอาชีพ
surrounded
ซัมม
by
อนให้ดูเลย
enemies, she would rather use an ability to escape than to take them on directly.
รอดูซัมมอนอยู่เลย
The druid is also a spellcaster, but unlike the sorceress, he uses his spells as a means to support his melee abilities. And by melee abilities, we mean he can turn into a giant animal and rip his enemies to pieces.
แกงลายมันตัดเก้าบาลีเก้าแล้ว
Each of these classes feels extremely different to play, but we want to go even further. It's time to check out the mercenary.
There's not a job out there
เนี่ย
I
อาชีพ
won't
ไอ
take.
อาวุธใหม่เนี่ย
So
หน้า
long
ไม้
as
อะ
the pay's
ที่
good
ที่
and a crossbow can solve it.
อะไรวะโอ้ยคำตีหรือเปล่าทีเซอร์ที่ใหม่อยู่ที่ใหม่อาวุธใหม่ยิงกระจายด้วย
I'll take 'em all down, one bolt at a time.
When thinking about each new class, we really try to think about how we can make combat feel different from all the others. For the mercenary, that difference is the crossbow. A crossbow is fundamentally different than a regular bow because it fires instantly instead of needing to be
กระ
drawn
สุน
back.
เป็นธาตุเปลี่ยนชี
This
วิต
means
กระสุ
that
น
you
เอา
need immediate feedback. Clicking the fire button should make the character shoot instantly, just like in a shooter. As soon as we experienced that, we realized that there are a lot of design lessons to learn from shooters, and so we fully embraced them.
โย
In Path of Exile 2, we have crossbows that work like sniper rifles, shotguns,
ปัจจัน
and assault rifles.
อ๋อเข้าใจว่าเราจะเปลี่ยนเป็นอะไร
But in order to really get shooter-like gameplay, we wanted to go further. In Path of Exile 2, we now support WASD movement. You can now walk around in any direction independent of aiming. In fact, if this is your preferred method of gameplay, you can use it on any class, regardless of what weapon type you're using. You can change between click to move or WASD at
เดี๋ยวจะ
any
บู
time.
ฟิวเอลซีในการขยับมูฟ
You can only hold 2 crossbows at a time, but Path of Exile 2 is all about interesting combinations of abilities, and this is where ammo skills come in.
เดี๋ยวจะบูเอลซีในการ
This is a burst shot crossbow, and right now I have armor-piercing ammo equipped, which makes it very effective when facing a group of enemies, since it pierces right
หั
through
นกลับ
them.
ไปยิงมีแอนิเมชันในการหันแล้วก็ยิง
But there are other ammos too. For a bigger single target, it might be a good idea to switch to incendiary. The more projectiles hit the target, the stronger the ignite, so you'll want to get up nice, close and personal with this one.
ได้
If you have a bunch of targets running at you, you might want to slow them down. In this case, you could switch to permafrost burst shot. Shooting a bunch of smaller enemies at range will chill them, and potentially even freeze them in place. Once you have some frozen enemies though, you can switch back to armor piercing. Shooting a frozen enemy with armor piercing burst shot will explode the ice, doing a huge amount of damage to all nearby enemies.
โอ้กลายเป็นเกม FPS ไปแล้ว
Another feature crossbows have is attachments. This
What
is a
I do
grenade
คือแบบ
launcher.
ยิงกับผี
As you can see, when I equip it, it appears on the underside of the crossbow. These attachments are just like skill gems, so you effectively get extra skill slots, and you can augment these with support gems, just like
ใช้
regular
พวก
skills.
สกิลเจมได้ที่ต้องเอามาใส่พวกข้างหลังแทนนี่แล้วเขาเรียกซองธนูป่ะ
These grenades take a while to explode, so it's a good idea to pair them with some kind of crowd control, like permafrost burst shot.
ยิงระเบิดใส่เลยกลายเป็นเกมอะไรไปแล้วเนี่ย
We have other grenades too, though. This attachment is a flash grenade.
Grenade.
It does barely any damage,
That's
but it does a
rubber.
huge amount of stun. It can be a great opener before you run into
โอ้
combat.
โอ้โอ้โอ้ตันเกรเนต
Surprise!
Now, here's another attachment, an oil grenade. Firing one of these grenades coats the ground and nearby enemies in oil. Oil slows enemies down, so it's another useful crowd control mechanic.
โลเอนิมี่ไม่ศัตรูช้าลง
Now, another thing that oil can do is be set on fire.
Oh.
Any burning enemy or
Rubber.
explosion will
Rubber.
ignite the oil, causing
แต่
extra
บนน้ำมัน
burning
ทำให้ศั
damage.
ตรูช้าลงการใช้ไฟเผาเลยทำให้ไฟแรงขึ้น
One of the problems with burst shot crossbows is that each pellet doesn't do much damage individually. This means that if enemies have armor, then it will be very effective preventing that damage. But thankfully, you can equip an additional crossbow in your second weapon set to deal with the weaknesses of your primary weapon. This is a rapid shot crossbow. Rapid shot is great for closing on enemies because you can shoot while running. In Path of Exile 2, we now have the ability to allow you to use some skills while moving.
แบบเกมแบบ
Being able to create skills like this opens up a lot of new design
game
space
ยิง
and
ซอมบี้
allows us
แล้ว
to really increase the pace of combat.
ไอเอเลี่ยนอ่ะเคยเล่นมารินไอที่ถือสองปืนยิงก็ยังชื่อเกมไม่ได้แล้วมุมมองแบบนี้เลย
The armor-piercing version of Rapid Shot slowly erodes a monster's armor. Once the armor is fully broken, you can easily switch back to Burst Shot to deal much more damage.
เดี๋ยวพอเปิดจริงเดี๋ยวลองเล่นแล้วก็บอกว่านี่เกมอะไรครับเนี่ย
Being able to run while shooting with Rapid Shot is also great for when you want to perform a fighting retreat.
นี่เกมที่คุณรู้จัก
Using permafrost ammo with Rapid Shot is also useful if you need to retreat. When you shoot the ground, it creates ice crystals. If you draw monsters back over these crystals, they explode, chilling the monsters. It's great if you want to set up a safe zone before pulling the next pack.
แอคต่อยิงลงพื้นได้ด้วย
Slowing enemies down can come in handy if you want to use the incendiary version of
ให้
Rapid
ตลก
Shot.
เอนิมี่
Using this skill requires that you charge up a little bit before it fires. But as it continues to heat up, it will do more and more damage.
มอรัมเนตด้วยโอ้ติดตาหน้าตาบอด
It has a really large clip size, so you can just keep firing and firing with it. But the other really useful feature is that when the crossbow is heated up, it adds extra fire damage to any grenade that you launch. Now I've been using explosive grenades here, but it will work equally as well with flash or oil grenades too. If you use it with oil grenades, the oil will catch fire immediately.
คือโยนไฟไอ้กระสุนไอ้ระเบิดน้ำมันแล้วก็ยิงไอ้กระสุนไฟไปได้ไงคือต่อคอมโบเลยเกมนี้ไม่เปิดแท้
Another crossbow type that you can find is Power Shot. This one works just like a classic sniper rifle. Use it with armor-piercing ammo and it will penetrate armor on targets. So it's a good idea to use when something's really tough.
สไนเปอร์ไรเฟิล
Back down!
ยิงทะลุแล้วไกล
Now this skill has another interesting interaction with armor break. If an enemy has its armor broken, then your power shot hits a weak spot and does a huge amount of single target damage, with a bunch of extra stun for good measure.
โอ้ยเจ๋ง
Now, the incendiary version of power shot is more like a rocket launcher. It does a big explosive blast at a distance. One of the really useful features of this version is that you can explode any grenades that happen to be on the ground.
ยิงเกรเนตตรงพื้นจะทำให้ระเบิดแรงขึ้นปาระเบิดไปเสร็จยิงเกร
This
เนต
combo also works really well with incendiary rapid shot. I'm going to charge up the heat on my crossbow, shoot out a bunch of grenades, and then start the fireworks with a power shot.
ปาคว้างระเบิดไปแล้วก็ยิงระเบิดตรงพื้นเฮ้ยโลน
The ice version of power shot creates frost walls at a distance. This is great for crowd controlling monsters in tight passages. The wall segments have other uses too. If they get destroyed by monsters, then they will explode, doing a small amount of damage.
วอลด้วย
Lock him in.
อยากรู้ตอนสู้กับบอสมากกว่า
Now, remember that burst shot combo with frozen enemies we did earlier? That works with ice walls too. Let's put burst shot back on. Now I can fill up this area with ice walls, then shoot them with armor-piercing burst shot for a huge amount of damage.
คอมโบยิงใส่ไอวอลไม่ใช่
Alright, it's time to face the boss for this area. Let's see how we fare against her with all the skills I've shown you so far.
Shall take pleasure in your castration. Not letting you anywhere near him.
โอ้เซอร์เดอะมาร์โช
Stay still, the mother.
โอ้ยแรงอยู่นะ
No.
มาถึงบอสแรง โอ้ยกี่ท้องตัวเองด้วยน่ากลัวว่ะ
By the gods.
บอสตัวยองวะ
Rapid fire.
ระเบิดปืนระเบิดต่อเนื่องทำระเบิดได้เร็วขึ้นโว้สู้กับบอสแคบที่ไหนสตันโอ้ตายโชว์แล้วโอ้มีทะลุบ้างติดบ้างเดี๋ยวตัวหลังแล้วโว้ยน่ากลัวเอ้ยจะตายเขาเดินทะลุไอวอลไปเลยจบไปเขาระเบิดแรงมาก
What is going on in this god's-forsaken city?
And that's the mercenary. It feels totally different than anything we've made before, and shows you the range of what's possible in Path of Exile 2.
และนี่คืออาวุธใหม่ผ่านอุตสาห2
We're going to be showing off a lot more about Path of Exile 2 as we approach its beta, but in the meantime, we've got a Path of Exile 1 expansion coming out next week. I'm going to hand over to Mark, also known as Neon, to show you what's in store for PoE 1.
Thanks, Jonathan. Well, let's just go ahead and get straight on into it. Here's the trailer for Path of Exile Affliction.
Something
Malakap.
moves in the mists.
แพทใหม่
Something
ภาคภาคแรก
sinister. Thorn. Rot. Plague. And claw. The affliction
ความ
spreads.
สว่างน่ากลัว
It
ว่ะ
hungers for
Oh.
more.
บังคับที่ยืนด้วยดุเกิน
Tread lightly in the wildwood, which shifts and fights.
โรคระบาดไปเลย
Accept our help, the ancient power of the Asmiri.
อาชีพใหม่เหรอ
Beware the spirits
Yeah.
that yearn for
แป๊บนึง
freedom,
นะฟังไม่แตกฉาน
and the heart of evil that waits in the dark.
ฟังไม่ได้สับแบบไม่ได้ความมันอาชีพใหม่อัตโตเมนตัม
Ready yourself. I will be waiting.
เนี่ยไอ้สัตว์ของจริงไอ้เหี้ยจะไปตั้งกลับมาอาจจะแบบเป็นเสริมก็ได้ไม่ได้หนักโอ้โหลุกเลยอ่ะเข้าห้องน้ำก่อนนะไปคิดหยอกไอ้อาชีพใหม่เหรอ
In the Affliction League, you will encounter sacred wisps, which beckon you to enter overgrown passageways that lead to the Viridian Wildwood.
โอเคพอเราเจอหลุมเป็นการไปที่ใหม่
A vile affliction has covered this forest with a foreboding darkness. You'll need to uncover the forest mysteries to put a stop to the source of the affliction. As you approach the darkness, the wisps burn away its affliction. Make sure you tread carefully, because they only have a limited amount of power. But be warned, the darkness is full of cursed monsters that emerge to kill you.
เป็นการเดินหา
As you explore, you might see other types of wisps trapped inside the
มี
darkness.
การนำทางให้
The Wildwood is trying to guide you towards clues about
เป็
its
นไกด์
affliction.
เป็นหิ่งห้อย
Follow the trails of wisps by collecting
Tama,
them, and you may uncover many different secrets. New
Ah.
characters to find, shrines, boss
Secret
battles,
challenge.
and all kinds of new encounters are lurking in the forest just waiting for you to discover them.
การบอกว่า
There are many rewards to earn for those brave enough to seek them.
โอ้โหดุเกิน
When the sacred wisps
Unique
run out
value.
of energy, they will return you back to where you came from.
น่าเล่นมากเลยครับเนี่ย
Any other types of wisps you have collected will return with you to Rayclast.
รีเทิร์นที่กลับขึ้นมาแล้วก็
These wisps, having been saved from the affliction, disperse into the environment and inhabit randomly chosen monsters in the area,
Monster
increasing
จะมี
their power and also their rewards.
หิ่งห้อย
The different
Now-
types of wisps have different effects on monsters, and sometimes more than one type will inhabit a
Monkey
single
boy
monster,
coming,
making the fight even harder and even more rewarding. If this happens to a boss, you could be in for a tough fight, but if you can overcome it, your efforts will not be in vain. Primal wisps grant an item rarity bonus to inhabited monsters.
อ๋อจะ
Wild
จับ
wisps
แร
grant
ง
an item quantity bonus, and vivid wisps cause them to drop
Quality.
currency items.
ฟอร์เรนซี
If a monster gets all three types, they'll drop more items of a higher rarity and a lot of currency.
รี
While
ไวออฟ
exploring the Wildwood, you might find some of the last few
เมื่อกี้ตาดี
Asmeri
ผมเห็น
wanderers who have managed to survive in the forest since it was cursed.
ลงคล้ายๆเซนติเนลเลย
Each of them have different survival specializations.
โหดเกิน
And they are willing to teach you if you agree to
อา
help
ชีพให
them
ม่
defeat the source of the affliction, the King in the Mists. Choose which of the Asmeri that you will complete quests for to unlock one of 3 new Ascendancy classes, which you can have in addition to your regular
เป็น
Ascendancy
คลาส
class.
ข้างใน
Up to 8 points for these classes are unlocked as you complete more quests for the Asmeri you are training under. The Warden of Eves can teach you to become a Warden of the Magi, a powerful class that takes advantage of wilderness knowledge.
โอ้โห
A Warden of the Magi can learn to use tinctures which coat their weapon, granting various powerful effects.
โอ้โห
You can equip tinctures in your
เปลี่ยนอาชีพ
flask
ของ
slots and
ที่
toggle
เขาใช้
them
ไป
on
เลย
and
เหรอ
off at will.
จริงปะเนี่ย
You can only have one enabled at a time, but the effects are quite conditional, so you may want to have more than one equipped and swap between them during combat. For example, equip the Ironwood Tincture to gain the
Nalin
benefit
Tad.
of always stunning enemies on full life.
ไอเล่นศาสตร์
Tinctures can also get random
เก
mods.
มใหม่
This one in particular
Ironwood.
adds stacks of wither to targets on full life and steals frenzy charges on hit,
Jumping
which makes it great
Iron.
as an initiator.
สตันเอนมี่แอเรีย
When you are fighting rare monsters or finishing off tough bosses, you will want to swap to the Oak Branch Tincture, which grants Culling Strike, increased damage against enemies on low life, and has a chance to steal a mod from rare enemies
แบ
you
นมอน
kill.
เตอร์ที่เป็นเชง
You can buy more tinctures from the Warden of Eves using Primal Wisps when you find her in the forest, so keep an eye out for her. As a Warden of the Magi gains more Ascendancy points, they gain access to more skills that let them further specialize in tinctures. For example, Nature's Concoction allows you to invest in having your
เอ
tinctures
จาด
enhance your
เอจาด
flasks.
แสดงว่าบอยข้างในได้
This
ดุมาก
ascendancy
แน่เลย
skill
มี
makes
ที่
it
เติมไหม
important to think about which slots your tinctures are placed in, and what flasks they are adjacent to. You will have better uptime on those flasks, and they'll be
แล้วมี
stronger
ส
as a
กิลก็
result.
น่าจะมันมากเลย
But there are plenty more skills to choose even if you don't want to engage with tinctures. For example, another new ability to unlock is Barkskin. It's a reservation skill that causes bark to grow all over your body, increasing armor. As you take damage, the bark falls off, increasing your
บล็อก
evasion.
ดาเมจ
Over time, the bark will grow back, removing the evasion bonus but increasing your armor again.
ค่ะ ยืนเฉยลาก
The Breaker of
ได้ไหม
Oaths can teach you to become a Warlock of the Mists, an ascendancy class specializing in the darker arts of the
ถ้าเป็น
Izmiri.
วอลล็อกแบบอะไรนะ
One powerful ability you can choose is Blood Hunt, which grants an active skill called Ravenous.
บลอดฮัน
This skill lets you see what type a monster is under
Ito
its
ba?
life bar,
จริงปะ
whether it is a demon, beast, undead, construct, or
มิ
humanoid.
เนียน
Consuming a corpse with the skill
Super,
gives a
super.
buff to damage against that type of monster and reduces damage taken by it. You can only have one type active at a time, so it's a good idea to choose wisely for the area that you are in. Some bosses like the Maven are eldritch in nature and don't conform to the regular corpses that you have access to, but don't worry. The Breaker of Oaths has a shop where you can trade wild wisps for corpses that you can place on the ground wherever you are. Buy an Eldritch corpse and you will be able to get the bonus while fighting Eldritch entities like the Maven. You may notice that most of the corpses he sells are not
ซื้อศพ
monsters
มา
you
กินเอ
normally
งเลย
encounter.
จบไป
You might want to try turning some of these corpses into specters, to take advantage of some of the unique abilities that these monsters have.
อุ้ยซัมมอนสุดยอด โอ้โหดูเกิน
The Warlock of the Mists gets
Chung
access
Chi
to
Wit.
many other
Boss ma len.
abilities. For example, there is a trio of curses that you can pick
เฟิร์ส
from.
อ๋อเลือกได้อย่างใดอย่างหนึ่งด้วย
One of these curses targets your minions, giving them life degen and making them explode for massive damage when they are near death. One of them prevents
What's that
enemies from
minion?
dealing damage for the latter portion of its duration, which is quite powerful against bosses. This curse creates the interesting build decision of whether or not you should increase curse duration or reduce it. The final curse is a mark that causes enemy phantasms to be spawned when you hit the marked enemy. These phantasms aren't on your side, so they work well with on-hit and on-kill trigger effects, for example.
เออ
The Primal Huntress can teach you to become a Wildwood
ใช่
Primalist.
ใช่
Unlike the other new ascendancies, the Primal Huntress lets you customize your tree.
ดูบูด
You do this with charms that you can buy from the Primal Huntress for Vivid Wisps.
จะเป็นของ
Charms have randomly generated mods which give stats from regular ascendancy classes, allowing you to create your own hybrid ascendancy class.
อ๋อโทเทม
Charms are magic items that are aligned with different attributes. So for example, this Ursine charm is strength aligned and has gotten the melee hits have a chance to
Yeah.
fortify stat from the champion, and the ability to stop your movement speed going below base from the Juggernaut. This interline Corvine charm lets you get the stat that makes your consecrated ground effects linger from the Inquisitor,
เนียนคิว
and the effect that makes cursed enemies explode from the
Oh.
Occultist. Some of the combination of mods that you might find for sale on charms can be extremely powerful, so keep a lookout for the Primal Huntress's shop even if you are not playing as a Primalist. As a Primalist, you also get access to a few other interesting abilities. Use war cries next to corpses and they have a chance to drop an extra item.
ฮะ
It opens nearby
Cry.
chests too.
คาที่ดับของเลย
The Primalist also gets
Đọc
access to a
khổng
small
lười.
extra backpack, just in case you find yourself needing to cart more items to town during your map runs.
มีกระเป๋าแยกกันด้วย
If you are unhappy with the class you picked, or you just happen to find a really great item for another one of the classes, you are able to change which class you are using next time you find one of the Asmeri Wanderers. Just remember that you will have to do their quests in order to gain the ascendancy points for that
เปลี่ยนไปเปลี่ยน
class.
มาได้เสียอะไรไปได้
These quests will lead you towards the ultimate goal of the Asmeri: finding the King in the Mists, defeating him, and cleansing the forest of its affliction once and for all. There are new uniques to find, rewards to claim, and new ascendancy classes to master in the Affliction League. Now that we've covered what's in the league, let's talk about some of the changes you can expect to the core game in
กลับมาเป็น
323.
คอแมปเรา
For a start, Ultimatum is finally going core. When talking to players at ExileCon, it was the #1 feature that people requested. When playing through in-game maps, you may sometimes encounter the Trial Master, who offers you a choice to undertake a deadly Val trial in exchange for great rewards. If you defeat the trial, he offers to go double or nothing with you. Do you take the risk and go for an even better reward? Or do you take the winnings you have already earned off the
เกิ
table
น
and go
เพิ่
home?
มจะได้ของ
We've
ต่อ
done a full
ที่จะ
rebalance
อยู่
of
ตรงนี้
Ultimatum and have added many
ถึง
new
ขั้น
mods
ตายแล้ว
and
ไม่ได้อะไรเลย
rewards, including both new and reworked uniques.
เฮ้ยอยู่
The base number of rounds for an Ultimatum trial is now always 10, with a chance to spawn the Trial Master boss fight on the 10th round, if you are able to make it that far.
เท้า
As part of 323, we have also removed Metamorph from the game. All the Catalyst rewards from Metamorph have now been moved to be rewards for Ultimatum.
ลืมอีกรอบ
We have also added a new Val-themed Catalyst that works on
Quality
corrupted
ใหม่วะ
items.
Random Quality ไทย
As is normal for most content that gets added to in-game, we have introduced new Ultimatum passive skills to the Atlas tree.
อยู่ด้านซ้ายครับ
One great example is the Keystone Grueling Gauntlet. It makes Ultimatums last 3 extra rounds, but you cannot choose the modifiers, and it prevents the final Trial Master boss fight
มา
from
ดูปลา
spawning.
ได้เห็นไหม
The level of challenge becomes extreme during the last 3 rounds, and not being able to choose the modifiers makes it even harder. But the rewards are insane, and for those with very high-end characters, it might be a bet worth making. There are lots of other Atlas passive skills you can pick from for Ultimatum, so choose wisely.
โอ้ยดีวาย
Now, it's time to talk about one of the largest metagame changes we've ever made. There were 3 systems in Path of Exile that were all trying to subtly modify the behavior of skills. These were alternate quality gems, Labyrinth Helmet
option
enchants, and unique threshold jewels. We've combined all of these together to create a new system called Transfigured Gems that allows us to fully achieve the goal of these 3 systems and then some. Transfigured Gems are alternative versions of existing skill gems that have different functionality and balance from their regular versions.
เฮ้ย
We have added a huge number of these with interesting variations that drastically change how existing skills play. For example, Frost Bomb of
บอส
Instability.
บอม
It changes it from a cooldown skill that you can cast occasionally for a large explosion into a skill that you can cast continuously but deals less damage and doesn't apply cold exposure. It changes the role of Frost Bomb from a utility skill into a main damaging skill. Another example is Detonate Dead of
Detonate
Scavenger.
Dead
You can't use it on corpses that were created by Desecrate or Unearth, but in exchange it does a whole lot more damage. You won't be able to use it as your main reliable source of damage, but it's a great skill to use as a 4-link utility to get some extreme burst damage. Raise Zombie of Falling. Instead of raising a zombie from a corpse, you summon them from mid-air. They fall to their death, dealing AoE damage where they land. While this sounds like a physical damage version of Firestorm, you should consider that it scales with minion damage and also triggers on-death minion effects. Blight of Contagion. This version of Blight is now spread by Contagion, so you can use it as part of your Essence Drain build. We have a huge number of these. Transfigure Firestorm into Firestorm with Meteors, Transfigure Blade Trap into Blade Trap of Great Swords, Transfigure Barrage into Barrage of Volley Fire, and so on. There is a lot to experiment with, and we look forward to seeing what builds you can come up with. But how do you get Transfigured Gems? The Divine Font at the end of the Eternal Labyrinth has been changed to a gem crafting device that can modify your skill and support gems in a lot of new ways. One of the options you can now choose is to turn a skill gem into one of 3 Transfigured Gems. But that isn't all the Divine Font can do. It has a lot of other gem crafting options you can use. For example, you can add quality to gems, add experience to gems, sacrifice a gem for 1 or more treasure keys to open Azaro's chests, and you can even exchange support gems for exceptional support gems like Empower or Enlighten. These are just some of the options you'll find the Divine Font is now capable of. In order to replace the rewards and heist that previously gave alternate quality gems, we have done a rebalance of the rewards of heist as well. Experimented base types have been rebalanced. New replica uniques have been added and old ones changed, and we have increased the amount of currency from display cases as well. On top of this, we have gone through and buffed the quality stats on most damage dealing skills. In most cases, they will be significantly more powerful than before, and also more interesting. Overall, this is one of the largest metagame shifts that we've ever done. There are so many crazy new skill combinations to plan around, so we expect to see some really interesting new builds. Next up, I'd like to hand back over to Chris to talk about the new supporter packs.
At this point, we'd usually talk about the League supporter packs. We're doing things a bit differently this year.
ขายของเนี่ย
Rather than releasing League supporter packs today and then our annual core packs 2 weeks later, we've combined it all together into a strong set of core supporter packs that will be released alongside Path of Exile Affliction next week. The series contains 5 packs, each with its full value in points and a collection of exclusive cosmetic microtransactions.
แซลมอน
The higher packs contain physical merchandise. We'll unveil the full details of each of the packs at release next week, but in the meantime, here's a sneak peek of some of their exclusive cosmetic microtransactions. These packs will be available for purchase when Path of Exile Affliction launches on the 8th of December. Thank you so much for your ongoing support.
โอ้มือประทับเท่
We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. Afterwards, we'll post Path of Exile Affliction's full patch notes. With the release at the end of next week, our community team will be posting crucial information you'll need for Affliction's release. Keep an eye on the news. On release weekend, we expect to launch the new mystery box and this season's Kyrix Vault Pass. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments. We're looking forward to exploring the Viridian Wildwood with you next week. We'll begin the Q&A shortly, so please get your questions ready.
มีอะไรดีมั้ยเดี๋ยวไม่ค่อยทันดูรายละเอียดในหน้าไว้อีกรอบเราเขาอัปเดต ถามเพื่อนนอนยังไอ้ลีมหลับยังเนี่ยไปแล้วครับ
G'day, Ziggy D here, folks. Exiles, welcome for a giant jam-packed Q&A after a huge reveal session. We have here today Chris, Jonathan, and Mark. 3 for the price of 1 this time around, not just Chris. Welcome, folks.
Thank you
Very much. Yeah.
Cheers.
Excellent, folks. We're going to be moving through things in rough order that we saw things today during the reveal. So starting with Path of Exile 2 and then moving through some of the new Path of Exile 1 features. So get those questions in through Twitch chat and we'll sprinkle those in through each of those various sections. So first, let's talk about that new movement